we were waiting for a quorum. So we have that quorum, and I said we'd start at 6:45, and we will, and that's another 2 minutes. I prefer to wait for a quorum before we start business, but that's my choice. Okay, 1 more minute and we're going to begin. Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 6. As you see, we're still on Zoom. I don't know how much longer that will last. I know they're relaxing the COVID restrictions, but so hopefully by at least in the spring, we will perhaps be able to gather together and see each other in person for the first time in 2 years. So, which is certainly a very long time. Again, thank you for joining us. COVID is obviously still a factor in our lives. My husband and I both had a mild bout with COVID about 3 weeks ago. Relatively minor symptoms, fortunately, because we've had 3 vaccinations, but still we had to deal with what we had to deal with, and I hope those of you that have had a similar misfortune had a similar path. I know we're supposed to be joined at some point by our new borough president, Antonio Reynoso. I don't see him yet, but I do see State Senator Jabari Brisport, who I will recognize. I was very disappointed to see, unfortunately, that after literally the entire time I've lived in Park Slope, which has been since 1985, I have been in that state Senate district. But unfortunately, with the redistricting, that will no longer be the case for me. That is, that is certainly a disappointment, but we'll see how that works. So Jabari, if you'd like to say anything, I just remind you to unmute yourself before you start to speak.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ty, for giving me permissions to share my screen. I'm just going to go through a quick slide deck of updates for everyone. Great to see you all. Greetings from Albany. Slideshow. So the first thing I have to just update you on is actually ties into what the chairman was saying earlier about remote meetings. For those who don't know, in the fall, we basically stopped putting an end date on when remote meetings would be allowed, and we gave authority essentially to the governor, saying that whenever she decides the COVID state of emergency is over, that's when we can stop doing remote meetings. So the current state of emergency is set to expire on March 1st. She does keep extending it every time we get close. And no one notices because she just extends it, but obviously that can't go on forever. And I just wanted to give a heads up about the end of the current one we are in. The next update is redistricting. We did approve new lines for state legislature and Congress last week. For those who haven't had a chance to see them or been on this site, newyork.redistrictingandyou.org, it's a very accurate site. It's not an official government site, but it does give a very good sense of how the lines are changing. I'm going to just go over to where Community Board 6 is and show how these are your current congressional lines. Here's what's happening with the changes. This Nydia Velázquez is here. Congressman Jerry Nadler is this sort of line that's snaking through, and then this larger section is an extension of the district that is currently represented by Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. In the assembly, you can see the current lines here. And I won't go through every single rep. I know that probably it's a packed agenda, but here you can see them changing. And just lastly, going into the state Senate, as the chairman said, you'll have to say a very sad goodbye to me, as we are shifting the lines over. May have either currently represented by Senator Savino. This is Senator Goodnardis, and this is Senator Myrie. And how do I get this out of the way? Okay. In addition to redistricting, I wanted to give updates about the New York State budget. It's due April 1st. These first 3 months are really wild in Albany. We're basically negotiating the state's $216 billion budget. But I wanted to highlight a few dates that are relevant to all of you on the call, because part of negotiations for the budget are when members such as myself submit what are known as budget priority letters to leadership, having big ticket items for the budget, but also advocating for discretionary funding for local community nonprofits and groups that are doing good work in the district. So we have to turn it in February 17th. My office is asking that if you have one, you send it to us by the end of day Sunday, the 13th. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about and have never done one before, you can go to bit.ly/budget-letters. We have created a quick FAQ about the state budget, who can apply, how you apply. And if it's your first time doing it, we have a sample letter for you to just see what a regular letter looks like to apply for funding. Okay, moving that. And if you have any questions, my email is brisport@nysenate.gov. If you would like to get on our email list, it's bit.ly/SD25-updates. I'm going to share a link to this slide deck in the chat. And yeah, that is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I don't see any other elected officials here at this moment. Perhaps someone would be kind enough to let me know when Borough President Reynoso arrives so that we can recognize him. Otherwise, we're going to move on. If somebody has a question for Jabari, we'll allow one question. Sure, go ahead. Unmute yourself, please.
I don't know if that was mine, but I'm one of the board members. So Senator, thanks for that update. I just wanted to say, because you mentioned about remote meetings, that I'm sure you're already aware of this, but for someone like me who has a visual impairment, the remote meetings have been a real godsend. Before them, I had a lot of trouble getting to meetings. It was dark outside. To get to the meeting, there's no Wi-Fi, so I couldn't use my smart device to magnify the agenda or any other documents that were shown. So if you, as you take part in trying to figure out how to move forward once the state emergency ends, whenever that is, if you can do both remote and in-person meetings, that would be great. It would really help for people with disabilities.
Okay.
We'll certainly continue from a community board perspective to do remote participation for as long as it's permitted. And if that is sort of a mixture of people where we have, as long as we have internet access and we're able to have a screen on the main table so that we can see when somebody wants to ask a question, we'll certainly try and do that. So, but thank you for that point. It's good to hear that. So we're going to start. We're going to call the meeting to order. I pretty much don't have any specific report to make.
No, Peter, I think that was for Jabari, though.
Yes, well,
I think that wasn't that for
Bond if he wishes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
I mean, I think he's doing whatever he can to continue the participation, but it's.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I was a little confused.
What he said. So, but what I'm saying is, as long as we are allowed to do that, we will try and have a remote component so that people such as Van can join and can be part of it. But if we are prohibited from doing so, obviously that's outside of our control. So
Yes, and if any government agency wants to lend us an entire staff like they did last year for the Gowanus hearing and let Alec run a meeting, that would be fine as well. That worked. So at the Old Stone House.
obviously we do what they allow us to do. So
Yeah, no, I know.
but we understand that, there are limitations, for everyone. So we've not been joined by any elected officials that anybody's noticed.
May I just clarify the open meeting?
Sure.
Just to clarify, so as of now, if nothing changes, you would not be allowed to continue meeting remotely after March 1st.
Correct.
I'm certainly very open to continuing the hybrid. No one has really taken the initiative to create a bill or legislation around making it permanent. I think primarily because the governor keeps on extending it. But if that's something people are interested in, I can certainly, try and find time to do a bill such as that, or reach out to other members of the legislature who would create legislation around, like, I guess, a permanent remote option for bodies.
Great, thank you very much. So again, I don't have anything else to report other than what I said in welcoming everyone. The first thing we're going to do is I will accept a motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting. If someone wants to make that motion, just raise your hand on the automatic hand raising. Somebody, anybody? Okay, Alec made a motion, seconded by Eric. If anybody is opposed to approving the minutes of the January meeting, I would ask you to please note that in the chat, and we'll record your vote from there. Otherwise, we're going to move on to our district manager's report. Obviously, Mike does his newsletter pretty much every day, so he tells you what he knows. But if he has anything special to report, I invite him to do so now.
No, on that front, I don't. A lot of the stuff like the redistricting and u.org site that Jabari referenced, all that stuff has been, in my newsletter and things like that. So, and I'll also include what Jabari is talking about, the letters for, various funding opportunities and things like that, because I know the city council is doing it for discretionary funding as well. And usually I usually jump on at the end of the meeting and say this. Thank you to Angelica as our board member for co-hosting with us, Ty and I, tonight. Most of you and a few, 1,000 other people heard from me within the last hour and a half or so. So not really a ton to report at this point. One thing I would mention though, and it's in my newsletter, is that if for some reason you want to if you're not registered with a political party but want to vote in the primaries this year, the deadline is Valentine's Day, February 14th. That would be something I'd like to just highlight. And if you'd like to get more updates and that are slightly more coherent maybe than what I'm saying right here, feel free to email me, mike@bkcb6.org, or text BKCB6 to 22828, and I'll add you'll be added to the list, whether it be the weekday updates or the weekly option. And that's it. To the committee reports, I guess. Turn back to Peter.
Great, thank you, Mike. We have a couple of items on the agenda today. The first one is permits and licenses. I believe we have a couple of liquor licenses. So I'm going to ask Rachel to take that over and let her handle those. Thank you, Rachel.
All right, thank you. We had 2 applications for full liquor licenses at our last meeting. Ty, which one's going first?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay. I have 244 Flatbush Avenue up, so. Okay. So the first was 244 Flatbush Avenue. First, we did have a quorum, and this application is on behalf of Coop One LLC. They're a chili chicken restaurant concept. They had actually previously applied. They had come before us to be in the old Santa Fe location on 7th Avenue, and that lease fell through. So now they have a lease currently at 244 Flatbush Avenue, and that they are moving forward with that location. Their hours are really very within something, generally pretty short compared to most of the places in our area. They're going to be, I think it's going to be 12 to 10 on Monday through Thursday and Sunday, and then Friday and Saturday, 12 to 11. Their application was updated at the meeting. They have no outdoor space, and their plan is just to be a very casual dining experience. And they are excited to be in the area because they've been doing business as sort of a delivery service, and they saw that the business was mostly in the Prospect Heights, Park Slope area. So that's why they're opening this restaurant in this location. So the committee had voted unanimously in favor of the liquor license, and that's it.
Are there any questions for Rachel? Just raise your hand and I'll recognize you. Seeing none, I'm going to ask that if anybody objects to approving this liquor license, that you please note it in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to assume that you're in favor of it. And obviously, if anybody has an voting no for cause, please note that as well. Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to Rachel's next item.
Okay, the next location was, 272 3rd Avenue on behalf of, they're going to be called Cafe Mars, an Italian eatery with a very eclectic, interesting menu. The owner and operator, his grandfather actually grew up across the street at the Super 8. And so for him to be coming back to the neighborhood and opening a restaurant in the area, he felt was really a full circle event for him. They also have fairly short hours for our area. They're going to be doing 4:30 to 11 Sunday. Sundays, they're going to close at 10. And Monday through Thursday, they're going to close at 11. And Fridays and Saturdays, they're going to be closed at midnight. They'll be not planning to have much of a bar presence. They want to be an Italian restaurant first. And they're a pretty small space. They do have a small outdoor area, which falls within our acceptable hours for the outdoor area. And so we again had no concerns, and the committee approved it unanimously.
Great. Are there any questions for Rachel on this application? Please just raise your hand. Seeing none, if anybody has an objection to us approving this liquor license, I would ask you to please note it in the chat, and if that's for cause, please note that as well. Otherwise, we're going to assume that you are in favor of it. Rachel, I think you had a third one?
No, just
No?
two.
All right, my apologies. I saw too many. Great.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, no problem. Give me just 1 second. Okay, I see that we've been joined by Councilman Lincoln Ressler. So Councilman, if there's anything you'd like to say, we invite you to do so. Please remember to unmute yourself before you speak.
Thank you, Chair Fleming, and all of CB6. It is great to be with you. I really appreciate the chance to say hello and to join you. We have a few key updates I wanted to highlight. And firstly is that tomorrow we're organizing a job fair over at Wyckoff Gardens and Gowanus Houses. As many of you may know, we have a new shelter opening up in downtown Brooklyn later this spring. And we were able to persuade the shelter that prior to hiring for any of their new jobs, that they should come to our community and in fact, come to our public housing developments and hire locally and prioritize longtime residents first for new job opportunities. And they've agreed to do just that. So from 10 to 1, we'll be at Wyckoff Gardens at 280 Wyckoff. And from 3 to 6, we're going to be over at Gowanus Community Center at 420 Baltic. If you know folks who are looking for work, bring their resume. Jobs start at $19.23 an hour and go up from there. And there's over 100 jobs available. So please, please, please come if you know people who need the opportunity. Secondly, as I'm sure many of you experienced yourselves, more than a little sticker shock after being blindsided by your new Con Ed bill, I'm outraged, frankly, that we saw a doubling, if not tripling, for many people of their Con Ed bills this month. And so I helped to organize a letter. I got all of the council members from Brooklyn and the Brooklyn Borough President to join us in sending a letter to the Public Service Commission to investigate Con Ed and to help smooth out these bill increases that we're experiencing, to make sure that this is not a sustained dynamic for us here in Brooklyn. Working class people can't afford multi-$100 increases on their bill without any notice. It's just not okay, and it's not sustainable, and we're pushing back with everything we can. And then thirdly, and this one's, I think, especially fun for this crowd, we are doing a Community Board 101 next week, February 23rd from 6:30 to 7:30, 2 weeks, excuse me, February 23rd from 6:30 to 7:30. And basically, if anyone that you know has been interested in joining a community board, we've brought together 4 community board all-stars, the secretary from CB2, the chair of CB3, the transportation committee chair from CB1, and your very own district manager, Mike Rassiopo from CB6. The 4 of them are going to join me for a panel discussion about what community boards are all about. And it'll be a great chance for people who are interested in applying to ask questions, learn from the pros, and get a real sense about what community boards do. I loved serving on CB2. I did it for a number of years, and it was the best learning experience I could have hoped for. And I really hope that this will be an opportunity for neighbors to learn, and hopefully we can encourage them to apply and make it happen and join us. Those are a few key updates. There is a ton more going on. I was at Rikers today, and we're focused on how we can try and address the humanitarian crisis there in the council. Spent some time with the chancellor this morning, thinking a lot about the equity agenda at DOE. So there's a whole lot of fun stuff. We're running around the district. If you're, we're doing council member on your corner events every couple weeks, where I show up on a street corner and people can come and ask questions. Our next one's in Williamsburg, but we'll be over in CB6 sometime very soon. And Joy, I will post a link in the chat in a minute for the Community Board Forum if anyone's interested in signing up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great.
I don't see any other elected officials right now, so we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is, I believe, a landmarks item. So I presume David is going to introduce that.
I am. Ty, you're gonna bring up 205 Clinton. This is an application for 205 Clinton Street in the Cobble Hill Historic District. It's between Amity and Pacific, a certificate of appropriateness to restore, certificate of appropriateness application to restore the front facade and stoop, the installation of a roof deck at the middle section of the top roof, and a 2-story rear yard extension. So here are photos of the existing facade today and then back in the 40s. Next slide. On the upper left is a view of the back of the house. The upper 2 photos are a little hard to see because of the reflection, but there was the neighbor's house. Just more contextual photos at the bottom there. Next slide. The plan on the left is the existing plot plan, which shows a deck and a planted area in the backyard there. And the plan on the right shows they're saying it's a 1-story and a basement addition, which effectively makes it a 2-story addition in the back. It comes out 9 feet, 2.5 inches. You can also see where it is on the right there in the historic district. Next slide. So you can see that where it is on the left there, and the other extensions in the what we often refer to as a donut. That's on the perimeter is Amity, Pacific, Clinton, and Court. And on the right is an axonometric. There's a couple axos later on that are a little bit clearer, but this shows where the extension is going to be and then what's happening up at the roof, which is a existing sloped roof. Next slide, please. So on the left is the existing elevation of the street elevation, and on the right is the proposed elevation with new windows. It is a passive house project. You can see at the top there on the right, it looks like there's some doors peeking up. Thank you, Ty. That is a recessed deck area, which we'll further explain when we see some other drawings. Some details on the lower right of the windows. And then the photos on the left are just more tax photos. Next slide. So they're showing a garbage enclosure in the front, in the front yard area. You can see it in the lower left-hand corner plan. It's on the left. There's a planted area behind the fence facing the street, and then there are some steps that go down. Thank you. It looks for more, creating a more gracious entrance to the lower level. And then just above that, you can see some of the railing details and the new entry under the stoop. Next slide, please. So on the left is the rear elevation as it exists today, and on the right is the proposed elevation, both at the garden floor and basement level. There will be a deck on top of the garden floor level, a sliding glass door, the transom, new windows, and you can see a skylight up on the roof, and then you see a railing at the very top where there will be a roof deck. Next slide, please. Okay, this is just some more sections of the house. I would just focus on the top of the page where you see at the middle a proposed cross section of the 4th floor terrace. That is outdoor space that's sort of carved into the roof. And then on the right is the view from the inside looking back out towards that. And again, there's a roof deck above that. Next slide, please. This is just a rendering of the rear yard extension and the finishes, brick and black aluminum cladding at the windows and the painted black railing. Next slide. Existing roof landscape. So the 3 drawings at the bottom are actually a pretty good indication of what's happening. So if we start at the left, Ty, could you point to the street facade in the left corner? It's over, yeah. So that's the street entrance. That's the stoop. And then if you come up all the way to the top there, you can see that they're going to have an outdoor deck that has an outdoor staircase that goes up to a upper roof deck. That's on top of an area they're constructing with sliding glass doors and windows. The middle view is the same side of, that's also the street elevation we're looking at with the staircase going up to an upper roof deck. And then the view on the right is actually looking at the back. So that's the back elevation we see on the lower part of that image, and a new skylight that's above the living space below. In all 3, you can see the upper roof deck. You'll notice how the chimneys are shown right now. We'll get to that in a second. That was one of our comments. Next page, please. This is the mock-up. So there was some disagreement, and I'll admit it came from me, but in the upper left there, they're showing a mock-up of the top of the proposed railing, and they're showing the code required chimney extension, which is not correct in my view. It actually will be higher. But otherwise, it was a pretty good mock-up. You can see in the lower right image, they have 2 code required chimney extensions, which are higher as required. So they were sort of taking 2 different approaches or attacks on the what chimneys had to be extended, and they are all active. Next slide, please. These are just the views of the mock-up. You can see in the image on the bottom, the second one from the left, you can see the chimney extensions are coming up a little bit there into visibility. In the upper right, you have a close-up image where you can see also the railing and the chimney extension a little bit more visible as you zoom in. The map in the lower right tells you where all those photos were taken. Next slide. More visibility shots you see from the Clinton Street and Pacific Street southwest corner. That's the photo at the bottom, second from the left. You can see there's one pretty visible chimney extension. Next slide. These are from the back, looking from the cross street from Pacific Street. You can see some of the decking and a little bit of the chimney extensions. Next slide, please. These are just floor plans. I don't think we have to spend too much time on these. Go to the next slide. You could, on the left there, sorry, Ty, is that Ty? Yeah, just on the left there, you can see the top of the deck on the rear yard extension. It's labeled terrace there. Thank you. Go to the next slide. Actually, I'm sorry, Ty, can you go back one slide? Over on the right, in the lower part of that plan on the right, is that outdoor terrace with the diagonal orientation on the tiles. Yeah, so that's outdoor area, and then everything above that is indoor area. Okay, go to the next slide. And then this is the view all the way at the top. So you see the roof terrace in the middle there. And then that's the backyard plan on the upper right of the plan. And then the front yard stoop in the lower right. Next slide. Existing section of the building. Next slide. The new proposed section, so you can see what's happening there. Ty, why don't you go back to the existing section briefly, and now let's go back to the proposed section so everybody can see that cut, how it's happening. Yeah, so the front part of the house is being opened up, and I guess they're going to have to do a heck of a waterproofing job, but that they're doing that all behind the cornice, and you can see the view, the sight lines. There's some encroachment, not much. The applicant pointed out that if they had built a bulkhead over the stair, it would be actually more visible. So they stayed with the outdoor stair. I'm not sure that was the reason why they did it, but they did point out that that would create more visibility for their proposed work. Incidentally, on the left side of this section, all the way to the left, you'll see a structure there, and that is the gun club, which I did not know we had in our neighborhood. And that comes up in the comments. Go to the next slide. I think this is, and the next one. Okay, these are the window details, all simulated triple glazed windows. Next slide. More window details. More window details. The sliding glass door detail. And some plans, existing plans. Next slide. More existing plans. And more existing plans. Keep going.
That's it, David.
Okay, good. Thank God. Sorry, I know that was a long one. So the comments and the questions asked had to do with, part of it was had to do with the gun club, and if it was going to be disturbed by as you can see on the left there, thank you, Ty, that there's a basement extension that gets pretty close to the gun club. So the gun club owner was present. He asked questions. We encouraged him and the architect to speak, since there might be some underpinning or shoring required. As I mentioned before, there were questions about the chimney extensions. There was a question about the light fixtures at the new extension in the back. Some questions about the visibility and how much of, the roof terrace and that railing around it at the top would be visible. And I think there's some stained glass windows that were above the original windows facing the street. They're being removed. They're being represented as not original to the building, and they didn't look original. So there was a motion made to approve the application while asking the applicant to consider mitigation of the visibility of some of the rooftop components, including the railings, the deck, and the chimneys. The motion was seconded and it passed 12 voting for and 2 voting against.
Great. Thank you, David. Are there any questions for David? Can we go back to the main page so I can see if anyone raises their hand, please? Anybody have a question for David? I see Rick has a question. Go ahead, Rick.
Yes, hi, David, do you have any idea when the owner bought the building? I think a material difference is whether they bought it when the district was already landmarked, or, you know, in which case they knew what they were buying, they knew the constraints around a landmark district, and, you know, versus if they owned it prior to the landmarking, which I think was early 1970s, perhaps. But they knew what they were getting. So adding square footage and visibility, you know, runs counter to the intention of the landmarking, that they ultimately bought the house as a knowledgeable buyer. So do you know when they bought it?
So I'll answer that question first, and then I'll just make a comment. I don't know. That did not come up in the conversation, I believe, unless someone else recalls that if it did. We've approved many applications that increase square footage. So I don't understand that comment. I mean, I've done it in my own house. In terms of visibility, that's our job to evaluate. Sure.
Okay. I mean, I guess my issue, you're right, is the latter. I mean, I think in pragmatic terms, certainly square footage drives that visibility to some extent. And so whether it's a question of accepting what you already have or being very proactive in terms of mitigation strategies, you know, I think landmark districts are landmark districts.
Are you talking about the additional square footage at the rear? Because that's where they added square footage. They didn't add any square footage at the roof.
Right, but total square footage of the building. In any case, it's a comment. I guess not a question. I understand what you're saying, that we've approved them many times, but it is a fundamental concern that I have.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Please use the hand raising feature because that puts you up there first and I can see that you have a question. Mark Shames. Please remember to unmute yourself, Mark.
I don't have a question. I just want you to know I'm voting against this when the time comes because I can't do the chat correctly.
You want to explain why or no?
No, I voted against it at committee. I'm going to vote against it here, and I have my own personal animus towards the project.
Great, not a problem. Anybody else have a comment or question? Daniel, I see you. Please remember to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just, like Mark, I also voted against it at the committee, and my reasons for it were based on the visibility issue that Rick highlighted in his comment. I think it's far too visible from the street, and a pretty radical alteration of the structure at the top, and I don't think it's really in keeping with the landmark status of the building.
Great, thank you, Eric.
Not a comment on the application, but I hope we're going to get a future update about the gun club that I did not know about. It seems intriguing.
I'm not sure there's much we can do about that, but certainly, it's within their right to be there. Great.
Yeah. Indoor shooting range. I just did a quick Google. Very interesting. So.
Anybody else have a comment or question? Okay, seeing none, it looks like there are some people who are against this. We know that Mark Shames is against it. Anybody else who's against it, I ask you to please note it in the chat, just so that we can have an official record of that. I see Rick is against it. I'm presuming Daniel is also against it, but I'll let him note that in the chat if that's the case. So we have Mark and Rick and Daniel. And Suzanne. And John Heyer. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. David, that's the only thing you had, right?
That's right. Thank you.
Right. Great. I'm going to recognize representatives of elected officials. I apologize if this is not the order in which you arrived here, but I'm going to do it in the order in which it appears on my screen. And the first one is Dan Wiley from Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez's office.
All right, thanks, Peter. Well, I'm back from paternity leave, so I don't have a lot to report except that I'm back to a rude awakening on the new districts that the state legislature passed last week. My title is for Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez, District Director for Southwest Brooklyn. And in the new maps that you can see over my shoulder here, Southwest Brooklyn is cut off right at, it's kind of hard to draw, but it's cut off right at Red Hook. So our district doesn't make it across Gowanus Canal or Creek or Bay to Sunset Park. And the district is radically changed. I've worked for the Congresswoman for 22 years, representing her in Sunset Park, parts of Park Slope and Gowanus, as well as Red Hook up to Brooklyn Heights. And so in my 22 years, and even before I was working for her, she's had Sunset Park as communities of interest, both Latino and Asian, connected going up to North Brooklyn and across to Bushwick and also Lower East Side, the two Chinatowns. Those are now in the adjacent district, and her district goes further into Queens. That said, I'll still be coming to Community Board 6 meetings because we'll still have some of the waterfront area and Red Hook. Yeah, so, but on a lighter note, I did want to give you guys a nice spoiler alert that in Red Hook, we're going to be having an announcement in the spring in time for the baseball season that the ball fields 5, 6, 7, 8 are going to reopen in time for the first pitch. So be on the lookout for that event and also an update meeting. Of course, a lot of the recreation area ball fields have been closed for cleanup of lead that EPA found and has worked with the Parks Department in cleaning them up. So we're really been pushing for getting these things open. Yeah, so Happy New Year. And you can hear in the background that I have an addition that's also welcome in the new year.
Congratulations, Dan.
Thanks.
Okay, the next person I see is a representative of Assemblymember Carroll. So Nicole, I invite you to unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Nicole Hunt from Assemblymember Carroll's office. I recently rejoined the Assemblymember working on legislation over there. So hello to everyone I know and hello to everyone that I'm just meeting. The Assemblymember is up in Albany working on the budget. As the senator said, big things happening in Albany. He's especially working on a couple of key pieces of legislation, his universal screening for dyslexia bill, and also his New York State build public renewables bill. So that's what he's been up to. And that's it. Just wanted to say hello and give you that brief update.
Great, thank you very much. The next I see is a representative of Councilmember Hanif. So I invite one of you to speak. Please go ahead. Remember to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'll go. So hi, I'm Faiza. I'm the Constituent Services Director for Councilmember Hanif. You'll see my colleague Mia below more often than myself, but I just want you all to know that some updates that we have from our office is that We've been dealing with a lot of, pipe breaks in Park Slope, but I just want you to know that we're on it with the DEP. We're constantly following up with them. I know that one of our own, Bob Levine, has been reaching out to our office often regarding getting updates, getting reports from the DEPs. I just want to let you know, we're definitely looking at your emails, and I'm hoping to get back to you as soon as possible when we get the answers. We've been receiving a lot of traffic concerns regarding traffic around the district. So I just want to let you know the council member is definitely on top of this. She's going to be, we've been meeting with the DOT commissioner, and we're planning on hoping to send a proposal to hopefully make our streets safer. That's one of her biggest priorities, as well as voting on legislation to keep restaurants open, which is something she's been really passionate about. So I think that's it for updates on my end, but if you are in need of any constituent services from our office, please feel free to reach out. We've been having a hard month. We reached out to at least 300 constituents over our first month, and I'm hoping to, continue this, get this balance. And if you have anything to add, I will mute myself now.
Thank you very much. The next one I see is a representative of Assemblymember Joanne Simon. So I invite Donna, I guess, to speak.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see everyone as always. And regards from the Assembly member who is driving back from Albany. Just wanted to say that the dyslexia bill that she sponsored to screen incarcerated people for dyslexia passed in the Assembly. We are hoping that it passes in the Senate this session. She continues to look forward to working with her colleagues to advance this very important topic for screening and intervention for everyone, including young children in school. So that's one thing. We also wanted to mention a lot of things we were going to talk about have already been mentioned. Thank you very much. And so healthcare enrollment in the marketplace, you have until the 15th. If you are not currently covered and you would like to look into that, we encourage people to do that as well. There's free tax prep help for families who are whose income is under $72,000, and for individuals whose income is under $50,000. I'll be posting a link in the chat about how you can access that as well. We still have in our office on Smith Street some just a handful of free COVID test kits. If you do need one, please stop by. The same thing with masks. We have a lot of KN95 masks, and we encourage the community to stop by and pick some up from us. We were able to distribute a number of them, the majority of them, to NYCHA, to senior centers, and to schools in the district. Once again, so obviously we talked earlier about the redistricting lines, and I know that the Assembly member wanted to say that for those who she will be saying goodbye to, which will not take effect until obviously January of 2023, it has been a real honor to serve and to welcome everyone who's going to be new to the district.
Great, thank you. I see a representative from State Senator Kavanaugh's office, so I invite you to also unmute yourself and speak.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Greer Mayhew from State Senator Brian Kavanaugh's office. We have a couple updates for you this evening. The first one is that Senator Kavanaugh announced yesterday that his bill, the Housing Access Voucher Program, advanced through the Senate Housing Committee, is now heading to the Senate Finance Committee. This bill is basically a rental assistance program in the form of housing vouchers for eligible individuals and families who are homeless or who face imminent loss of housing. The senator is very committed to addressing homelessness on a statewide level, and he's delighted that this is a new step to help address this issue. The second update is that the New York State Division of Homes and Community Renewal announced that they will stop taking new applications for the Homeowners Assistance Fund starting February 18th. just a reminder for everyone, this is a federally funded program dedicating to assisting homeowners who are at risk of default, foreclosure, or displacement as a result of financial hardships caused by the pandemic. So beginning the next day, February 19th, the website will convert into a waiting list. And I will put the website on the chat for everyone to see. And other than that, that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think that's all of the representatives of elected officials that I see. So Ty, if you can tell me who I need to recognize for a public session, I'd be happy to do that. Remember, you have only 3 minutes to speak. Please don't make me interrupt you and stop you mid-sentence. So I ask you to respect that limit. So Ty, go ahead and tell us who's first and upgrade them so that they can be heard and seen.
I don't see any hands up on the attendee side, but folks, if you're on the attendee side of the meeting and you want to speak tonight, please use the raise hand function now. I see Haim Gross. I know Haim messaged me earlier. So Haim, I'm going to promote you to the panel now. Once you're over, please unmute yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Ty.
Hello. Oh, wait a minute. Lights.
Yes, you're significantly in the dark. There you go. Much better.
A camera. Action. Okay. Hello, everyone. And thank you for the opportunity. My name's Haim Gross. Some of you may know me. I am the chair of the New York City 2030 district. I'm a neighbor in the South Slope, and I'm also one of the principals of the Heat Cool Smart Brooklyn campaign. We are a NYSERDA-funded Brooklyn Borough President-sponsored campaign. We've been working for the last couple of years and under the throes of the pandemic to help the property owners, homeowners, business owners in the community retrofit their buildings to improve energy efficiency with insulation, weather stripping, and to convert from fossil fuel burning boilers. We all burn fossil fuels in our basements, unfortunately, most of us do, to convert to electric air source heat pump heating and cooling systems. These are relatively new technologies, but they can provide heating in very cold weather. Yes, Con Ed charges a lot of money for electricity. Yes, gas is cheap, but the way forward for the climate and for health and for our local, very local environment is to convert our buildings to be more efficient and to get them ready for what we hope, pray, and will work very hard to make a clean electric grid. One thing we can do is take a whole building approach, and that includes adding solar building. And we'd like to help you do that, working with Brooklyn Solar Works and Solar One and others. So there are some very generous incentives. We can help you get those. There are also some incentives for the energy efficiency improvements, the weatherization, the insulation work, and for solar. There are very generous incentives for low moderate income properties and low moderate income households. And we need to work together to do this. Our website is heybrooklyn.org, H-E-Y Brooklyn, one word, .org. Heat Cool Smart Brooklyn is the campaign, and we hope that you'll join us. And let's make this happen. It's a house by house, building by building, neighborhood by neighborhood project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Ty, is there anyone else?
That's all I see, Peter.
Great. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot, Rick.
Yeah. The Economic Waterfront Community Development and Housing Committee is now taking the role of serving as a
essentially the budget committee as well. And we're seeking volunteers from other committees, members, board members, doesn't matter. Because the remit of the budget is really to understand community needs across a range of areas, be it health, education, human services, public safety, a lot of intersections, and we need that expertise beyond the usual domain. It's a process that starts when we get feedback on the prior year's budget requests from the city agencies, and then feeds into the next year. Typically, in contrast to what the senator spoke about from the state, these are not sort of specific projects and discretionary options for community organizations. They're broader sort of agency change, staffing, capital projects, infrastructure, and really a chance for us as a community board to collectively understand and articulate our needs as the city goes through its process through the mayor and the city council and the individual agencies. So if anyone wants to join, please contact me. And it's an opportunity to get involved at a kind of macro level through a very light workload.
Peter, do you mind if I just chime in on that too?
Sure.
We, on behalf of the Economics, Waterfront, Community Development and Housing Committee, I've reached out to DCP already to see if they'll send us someone for the March committee meeting to kind of outline what that process looks like for us. So if you are interested in that, like Rick said, you can reach out to him directly or you can email me, and we'll make sure that you get to the March committee meeting, which is where I think we're going to try to do a soft launch of this project.
Great. I saw we were joined by a representative of Councilwoman Avila's office. So if you'd like to unmute yourself and speak, we invite you to do so.
Ed, I just promoted you to the panel, so you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hello, everyone. Edward Cerna here, Chief of Staff for Councilmember Aviles. I'll be very brief. We're co-sponsoring an event with Assemblymember Marcela Martinez for a virtual Sunset Park Climate Justice Town Hall. And again, just generally, it's not only for Sunset Park, but it's about climate justice. And so it's going to be taking place this Saturday, February 12th, between 2 and 4 p.m. I'm happy to send Mike a flyer to disseminate to everyone's networks. And then just quickly, the council member was in Red Hook on Tuesday. There were a couple of buildings that lost power, and we were sort of there on site the very next day with Maisha from Senator Bridgeport's office, handing out at-home COVID test kits and PPE. And by the time we got there, power had been restored. But we met with Chair Russell yesterday as well. We're sort of information gathering, talking to NYCHA, getting a status of like what the budget looks like, going over some of the pilots they're running, again, to inform our body of work moving forward as chair of the Public Housing Committee. So that work is ongoing. Other than that, I'll be brief. My email is ecerna@council.nyc.gov, and happy to field any questions if there are any. Thank you, and have a great rest of the month.
Thank you, Edward. I appreciate it. Okay, I think we've recognized everyone that's joined us. If there's is there any new business to discuss from community board members? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Leroy. Second from Suzanne. Motion passes. Thank you all for joining us. We may see you in person in March. We may not. If not, we'll see you here online. Be well, everyone. Thank you.
Have a blessed evening, everybody.
Thanks. You too.
Good night,
Joanne.
everyone.